Well, it's so nice that we could take some time, Murshida, and have a conversation about the work that we do on different sides of the world. So you're in Bangladesh, I'm in Australia, and before we started the recording, we were just talking about how it's winter in Bangladesh and very hot summer in
Yes,
Australia. So
of
um,
course.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
All right.
winding down to the end of the year. So it's
Uh-huh.
been, really nice to have these conversations with you. And it was only maybe, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks ago that we connected on LinkedIn. And
Yeah, definitely. Yes, yes, we did. Yes.
yeah,
And we did share a common vision. So we did come together, to give children maybe the possible, strongest possible start in their life, you might say.
yeah,
Right.
absolutely. And it's interesting because we are from very different walks of life. Where
Mm-hmm.
you work in one area with students and children, and I work in a very different area, and we have a different focus and different backgrounds, and yet we've got a common purpose, and that's what I
Oh,
love
yes.
about this.
Yes, yes, of course. And we do help children just not by teaching them, but we empower them to access education and maybe broaden their horizon and engage with the world, maybe completely. So our mission's kind of the same in different ways, but same goal, I suppose.
Yeah, I think so.
Right.
So just to remind me, can you give me a bit of an overview of the work that you do? And it's really important. And I remember when we first spoke about this that I thought, wow, you're really making a difference with the students that you work with, but in a very different way than the way I work with students. But you're making such a huge difference. So can you just remind me again about the work that you do, please?
Of course, what I believe is that every individual has a unique quality from a creator, and that challenge is that many of us are trying to discover. So, for me, the discovery came through my husband's unwavering support. His belief in power of education gave me the courage to recognize my path, and he was the one who inspired me to take my very first step into the teaching to start with, I must say. And that encouraged me into how I became what I am today. So, a little bit about myself to build my strong foundation. I took up this CELTA course with British Council. The training gave me the tools and confidence, the methodology, and the way I needed to teach effectively. So it was the beginning of my new chapter. And from 2012, I officially began my teaching career. That started to give me personal inspiration. I grew quickly to a professional mission. I helped learners achieve their fluency, empowered teachers through training, opened doors to students from different contexts altogether.
Mm.
And along the way, I had the privilege to develop some content for our country, ranging from A1 level to C1 level. But the thing is, I didn't stop there. I kept pushing myself, and then I became a Cambridge English examiner, interlocutor for the occupational English test, which supports the healthcare professionals. So that's a kind of about it. Maybe you can give me a short overview about your product on brand set. That's what we had the discussion about earlier.
Yeah, we did.
Um,
Well, I thought, just touching back on what you just said, I thought the work that you do and encouraging fluent English speakers makes such a difference to their potential outcomes for their education or for their future job prospects because now they can become global citizens and
oh, yes.
and use, English everywhere they go. So
That's right.
I thought that was a really powerful thing that
Thank you.
that you do, and that's the way I saw that you make a difference in people's lives by developing
Mm-hmm,
that English concept, context, and
mm-hmm,
skill set. Um,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I work a little bit
The-
differently. I work in the early childhood sector and I have a business called Future Strong Education. And I have developed a teaching process called the Brain Set Environments Formula. And I work with anyone who has a brain, basically. And I work
We
with,
do.
yeah, yeah, that's right, you too. And I work with them to set up their environments in a way that's going to support brain development. So the brain set that we talk about is the S, the E, and the T. So the survival part of the brain, the emotional part of the brain sits in here behind the ear, and then the neocortex is the thinking part of the brain. So that's where brain set comes from, SET. And
Okay.
if we set up our classroom environment or our work environment or our office space or our corporate office space, if we set it up so to design it in a way that helps the brainstem have that sense of safety and have the amygdala up here in the limbic system feel safe and feel welcome and feel loved and as though they belong and part of a community, then when we've got that right, then we can think really clearly and we can remember things better, we can communicate better, we can make better decisions, we can do all of that sort of stuff. And of course, there's also allowances to make for people who have experienced trauma. So we do things a little bit differently, just tweak it a little bit so that we can calm and support the brain for children or adults who have experienced trauma. So with brain set,
Wow.
it's about where we put the furniture, but it's much more than where to put the furniture. And it's,
Ah,
the how and the why and what's going on in the brain. If you put a table here and, a square table there instead of a round table, what happens in the brain? And, so why do you position things where you position them? And brain set is also about having multiple small groups of children in the room, not having like a table of 10 or a table of six,
okay.
something like that. It's
Okay.
small little groups because that's calming for the brain and it adds to that sense of safety and that feeling of being safe. So all of that's really important. So with my business and with BrainSet, with the BrainSet formula, I work with people all over the world. So, I travel quite a lot. As I mentioned in our first conversation, I go to America and
Mm-hmm.
Canada and South America. I'm working with a school in South America. We've got
Okay.
people doing BrainSet in England and in Australia. So it's BrainSet is spreading. And all I really
Right.
want to do is share. I just want to share BrainSet because I know it makes such a difference for teachers' well-being, children's well-being, because it relieves the stress level, brings everything down a notch because of the way you set up the environment. So, when you're talking about your work that you do with, developing the English language with your students, and I talk about, maybe working with early childhood
Mm-hmm.
educators and children and corporate spaces and anywhere really. The way you even set up your classroom environment is really important so that,
Of course.
yeah, so the students can really learn easily because that's
Of
what we
course,
want. Yeah, and calm everybody's brain. I've
Yeah,
got,
yeah, I kind of second your thought on the setup of furnitures in the classroom because I've noticed that while I teach, the traditional way of one table behind the other actually doesn't work that effectively as compared to what I set up in groups or around the classroom where the teacher can stand in the middle and everyone can look at the teacher in a very quick position or they can easily get an access to the teacher's teaching rather than one being behind and the other being in front. So
mm,
second your thought on that. It's very, very important the way furnitures are
mm,
laid in the classroom.
mm.
Yeah.
And
So,
having children in small little groups too, like having, and there might be spaces just for one student or two together or three together or four together. Maximum would be six together.
mhm,
And having them in small little defined spaces and small little groups means that it's less threatening for the students too, and it's more familiar, it's more comfortable for them, and the brain is more relaxed. Because when you think about it, if you're in a big group, so let's say we had to go to a conference, let's say, and there's
uh-huh,
lots of people in the room. So there's 20 or 30 or 50 people in the room, and
Mm-hmm.
the conference person says, okay, everybody, we'll send the microphone around and we want you to stand up and say your name and where you're from. Well, as soon as they say that, the cortisol level goes up in our brain, and then we think, oh my gosh, so I'm going to have to stand up in front of all these people. And
Yeah,
what is my name? I can't even remember my name. I don't know. Where do I come from? Because we've got this cortisol level in our brain, and we start to panic because all of a
that's
sudden,
right.
yeah, we're a bit threatened. But
Mm-hmm.
if we were in a small group situation and
Mm-hmm.
the person said, oh, just tell the person that you're sitting next to your name and where you're from, it's a
Mm-hmm.
lot
Much
less,
more comfortable.
yeah, it's a lot less confronting, isn't it?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. I faced a similar situation in my classroom, as you were mentioning, small groups of tables and
mm,
having students or having the candidates to talk to one another. That gives them more comfortness in what they are producing rather than being picked up in a classroom of maybe 20 and, being pointed. So, what do you think about the topic
right.
after being taught? And as you mentioned, yes, it becomes very intimidating for that person to answer if the person is not confident or the person is a slow learner.
Mm,
But being in a group, yes.
mm,
And in that way, I kind of excelled in my teaching profession as well because I ensure that students are comfortable in class. So my class management is in that manner that everyone is getting special attention and they are comfortable in what they're learning as well as giving me feedbacks. They're not frightened. They're not they don't want to actually think that, okay, I don't know what will I, if I make a mistake, what will happen to me. So that fear has been overcome in my classes, and they are quite comfortable. They enjoy the classroom and they come back to me saying, Miss, we have a best uh, class today. You were teaching with very nice techniques which helped me learn what I wanted. So
mm,
that's a big, big achievement which I face from my candidates, from my
mm.
students, I suppose.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's so important, and also if you can connect the the content that's meant to be taught to the students' interests,
Hmm.
and
Oh, yes,
talk
yes.
about something that they're interested in, well, of course they're going to be more engaged. And we have this mantra in Brain Set, and it's a calm brain is a thinking brain. And when you think about that, when we are calm and let's say we're going for a walk or we're
Hmm.
relaxed or something, and we often can solve problems in our mind, or we can think about all of these creative things because our brain is nice and calm. So a calm brain is a thinking brain. And that's what we try and instill in Brain Set, my trainers and I. That's what we do across the world, just try to
Wow.
change classrooms so that
Uh-huh.
teachers can teach with calm brains and the students have got
Right.
calm brains. But it's much more than just where you put the furniture. It's, as you would know, it's the way you speak, it's the language you use, it's the relationships
Mm.
you build, it's that connection that you build to all of the students and build those relationships with the children or students, however, whatever age range you're working with. Or if you're in the corporate sector, building those relationships with your colleagues. All of that's
Yes.
really important, and that helps to
Mm.
calm the brain as well. So, if you
Yeah,
you want to remember that, a calm brain is a thinking brain.
of course. And
Mhm.
I must say that we as educators, our job is not just about teaching what they need today, but
Mhm.
preparing them for tomorrow. It's like
Totally.
giving them the skills, the confidence, the mindset to thrive in the world that's changing all every
Mm.
day. So,
Yeah, because I think
so
those human skills that we can help children with, so that resilience and confidence and self-esteem and problem solving and analyzing the information that they're given and repurposing it in a different context, and all of those executive functioning skills and critical thinking and all of that. That's so
mm-hmm,
important for the future, because you can
mm-hmm,
always learn. Um, the academic stuff. You can always learn maths or English or science. You can learn that. That's the content. But these human skills and people skills, they're the big things I think that children are going to need in the future, and students of all ages are going to need in the future. So if we can build that capacity to be able to get along with each other and have some emotional intelligence, I think
Yes.
that's going to really push children into the future in a really positive way and give them a really good grounding so that they can learn whatever they need to learn.
Of course, I do agree with you. Yes, yes. And these children, they are so exposed to all these new things about learning. It's the best policy is for us to guide them towards the best initiative so that they can actually come up with the best outcomes as well. And
Mm,
that's quite important,
mm.
quite important. And that teaching starts from the very beginning, which you start off with, and I carry that on towards their teenage level and towards their level where they're entering into the real world, preparing them for the different exams that they need to uh, face and getting ready for the world. So it's a
Absolutely.
long,
Yeah, absolutely. So talking about that and talking about future plans and things, what are you planning for the future for your career? Have you got any ideas or anything that you want to develop, or what are you thinking is on your horizon?
Well, yeah, you see, I never thought that teaching was static. It's a journey. It's a journey of growth and innovation and definitely of renewal. So for me, the mission is simple, but I think it's powerful because I want to bring in new techniques, new methods, and creative approaches to learning, whether that's through interactive lessons, technology, or even personalized strategies. I want every student to feel empowered so they can take charge of their own learning journey. But there's one thing: education can't stay locked in the classroom or an institution. So, if we really want to make an impact, I believe in sharing my knowledge widely, maybe offline, online, in communities, across borders as well, so that the effect begins. And one idea is one lesson, one spark, it spreads and it keeps spreading. So my dream is that every student, no matter where they come from, has access to my tools, my methods that should help them succeed. And when I teach, I just don't want students to memorize the facts, because memorizing nowadays isn't a key tool to teaching. Rather, I want them to understand deeply, so deeply that one day they move on to teach others with the same clarity. And that's kind of my mission. I think that if students who have learned from me in this way, if they can pass it on to their peers or their little ones who wants to learn, thus a chain would be created. And if this unbreakable chain of knowledge moves forward generation after generation, I think education becomes sustainable. So that's how we live on. My mission, that's how I look into the future. So about that. And of course, if I get a chance, I would definitely develop myself. If need be trainings, if need be other collaborations, I'm ready to do that. I'm open to it.
Hmm.
So that's my mission. What do you think about your future? Where do you think the future will take you to?
Well,
Um,
you talked a bit there about performance-based learning and process-based learning. And performance-based was where you just have to, it's like sitting for an exam. You just need to know the facts and the information.
mm,
But process-based learning, as you said, is about understanding
oh,
and
yes.
and being able to relate the information that you're learning to new contexts and do something with it.
Mm-hmm,
So for me,
mm-hmm,
that's a big part of brain set. And so for me, for the future, I want to continue what I'm doing across the world. I want to share brain set even more. I speak at a lot of conferences. I train early childhood educators and people from schools and different organizations. So I want to continue doing that training across the world, online and face to face, which, I love both, but, face to face is always nice, I think.
Oh,
But
yes.
yeah, so make those, it's easier to make connections, I think, when it's face to face. So I want to continue to share brain set with everybody. Everyone who has a brain, I think, needs to know about brain set because, what I've seen in the classrooms that I've set up in the brain set way is that children thrive. And so do
Mhm,
the educators. There's less behavior
mhm,
issues. There's more creativity. There's more problem solving opportunities, literacy, numeracy, science, all of those subject areas to increase. Um, and the children are so confident and independent, and there's just a whole change in
mhm,
the children, but also in the educators, because now they aren't being a referee anymore and having to manage behavior because the students and the children are interested in what they're doing with this
mhm.
particular way that I show teachers, how to do these things. And we have a whole planning process, and it's a whole way of teaching. So
Okay.
so to have more opportunities to train people in BrainSet, to have more trainers across the world,
Mhm,
BrainSet trainers across the world, so I can spread the message and share the love, I guess, more readily
okay.
across the world. That's really I think that's my life purpose, really. I think that's why I'm here on the planet to encourage this. So, it's a big goal, it's a big mission, but I think that's why I'm here.
Yeah, very nice. Wonderful. So if one wants to get in touch with you, they get all the different strategies and resources that you have. You can pass it on to them, and then a new way of learning starts for um
Hmm.
the new place. So
Yeah,
yeah, that that's
it's a new way of teaching, and people have called it revolutionary, cutting edge. It's all based in a lot of research. I've been in this game for now over 40 years, and so there's
okay.
there's a lot that's in brain set. It's not just something I thought of one day and thought, oh, that's a good idea.
Hmm.
Same as you,
Okay.
and the work that you do.
Yeah, yeah.
That's not an overnight thing. That's been developed
Of
over
course.
years.
Of course, it has. And over the years, I've looked into the different students and what their needs are, especially once when a student came up to me, not even having not even having the courage to speak one word of English. That's where I came in, and I told her that it wasn't like you have to be frightened. I built the confidence in her, and I told her how she could bridge the gap between non-confident to being more confident and being outspoken. And yes, she carried on like that, and eventually she came out, succeeded, and she became empowered with the language which she is using to thrive in the society now. So one of
Awesome.
the biggest achievements. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
yes.
we had someone join us, Murshida, Ashrafal. Would you like to
Yeah.
add anything to our conversation? So we'll count down
Y-
from three. If you want to join us, unmute yourself and just join us. We'd be happy to listen to your point of view as well. So three, two, one, and that's okay. So,
Is Ashraful on the line? I don't know.
well, I'm not sure, but the
Okay.
it's their name is there. So
Okay.
Mashida, if people want to get in touch with you, how do they do that?
Oh, well, they can definitely get in touch with me on LinkedIn. I'm very much available on LinkedIn, and I can share my email address in the chat box. So from there, they can definitely get in touch with me. And of course, they can be ensured that the lessons I give out to them, especially as I am based with exam preparation, they would excel in whatever they're doing because I have tailor-made programs for every individual so that they move into that particular path and overcome the or shortfalls that they have within themselves. So email address, which is quite easy, mushidabegum2016 at gmail.com, or my email LinkedIn profile would be a best option. So, Kathryn, likewise, if people want to get in touch with you, how do they actually come up?
Well, there's a couple of ways of getting in touch with me. My business is called Future Strong Education. So there's a website,
Okay.
futurestrongeducation.com, and there's a contact page and there's a link to connect with me. The other website I have is called brainsetformula.com. Same thing on the contact page. Or like you, people can contact me on LinkedIn and send me a message, and I'd love to talk more about how important the environment is, and how the environment shapes what we think, what we feel, and how we act. So,
Okay.
and how that impacts on us and our well-being and our own health. So,
Sure.
so that's it. So there's some common things that we have between us, and who would have thought that, we would have
Exactly.
so many things in common, Mashida?
Right, right. From two different parts of the world, but we do have common things. We share common things. We teach in a multiple ways, and we ensure that the impact echoes for far and beyond.
That's right.
Right.
So it's
That's
been
right.
lovely talking to you, Mashida, and I'm just going to stop the recording now.
Okay.
And it's been lovely having this quick little conversation to share ideas. And I hope people who are listening to this have enjoyed this little snippet of our lives.
I believe the same way too. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you very much.
Bye.